Here we go. We're going to run through example 1 for lesson 1-3. We have a girl working at a summer job as a lifeguard making $8 an hour for 40 hours. If she goes past 40 hours in a week, she makes 1.5 times her pay. So she'll make $12 an hour for every hour beyond 40. Okay, so how could you make a graph and write a function that shows Alani's weekly earnings based on the number of hours she worked? So we're going to take a look at a table of values and a graph to show how much money she would be making for these numbers of hours. All right, so I'm going to highlight first of all the regular pay rate. So right in here in yellow, these are the hours that she would work where she wouldn't be getting paid overtime. She's just getting a straight rate of $8 an hour. So as you can see, they're just multiplying her hours worked times 8, times 8, times 8 to get her pay. What we see is the red graph for that. Until you get to 40 hours, then things change. If you notice, the green line is a little bit steeper because after that, she's going to be making $12 per hour, making $12 an hour. Beyond that, so the slope is going to change. It's going to go up. This red graph is just 8x. But for the green graph, the steepness changes. The slope changes to 12x. Now, notice here that she's not making simply $12 an hour for all of the time worked. For example, 50 times $12 per hour is not 440. That would be 600. What we have to remember is she's only getting paid $12 an hour for the time beyond 40. So 50 hours is 10 hours of overtime times $12 per hour, which is 120 bucks. That's her overtime that's going to get tacked on to her 320 to give you the 440. So $320 for the first 40 hours, 120 for the overtime would give her a total of 440. That's why there is a point at 50, 440 right there. Next, we want to think about what this might look like as an equation. So we're going to scroll down a little bit here, talk about how this is going to show us a piecewise function. The plot contains two linear segments with a slope that changes when x is 40. A function that has different rules for different parts of its domain is called a piecewise function. So we're going to write an equation for each piece of the graph, and here's how they come up with it. Let's start by looking at the easier part, which is actually the second statement. When her x, or her hours, are between 0 and 40, her pay is $8 an hour times the number of hours worked, or 8x. All right, and that was the red line that we saw right there, y equals 8x. Then, when she's beyond 40, when her hours are greater than 40, her pay, p of x, is 8 times 40, which is that 320, plus she's going to get $12 an hour for the time beyond 40. So if she worked for 41 hours, you'd put 41 minus 40, and she would get $12 extra times 1. At 42, she'd get 24 more dollars, because you would do 42 minus 40 for the 2 extra hours of overtime. So this is a significant part of the formula, to have x minus 40 in there. Simplifying this, 320 plus 12 times the quantity x minus 40. If we distribute the 12, it's going to give us 12x minus 12 times 40 is 480. We could simplify it further by taking 320 minus 480, which gives you 12x minus 160. Okay, and if I get rid of this gray square, you could see that is the piecewise function. When she goes from 0 to 40 hours, she's getting paid at a rate of 8x. But when she goes beyond 40 hours, she gets paid at a rate of 12x minus the 160 to adjust for the fact that she already received the 320. That might be a little bit confusing, but go ahead and try. We'll talk about it more in class tomorrow. Let's use these, use this function to answer the questions for the try it. For example, 1 should be right here. Okay, so how much will she make if she works 37 hours? How much will she make if she works 43 hours?